Hello YouTube, this is the Bucket coming at you today with my 1906 DWM Luger American Eagle. This firearm was made by the DWM company. Now DWM partnered with a man named Borchardt, and he came up with what is colloquially called the first commercially successful automatic pistol. And he created this gun, and it had this big bulbous end on the end of it, and it functioned good, and some people were willing to purchase it. And when it went out for the trials, a lot of people said, you know, we like the functionality of it, but it's unwieldy. It had more of like a 90-degree angle to it. And it just wasn't weighted correctly. And DWN went to Borchardt and said, hey, you know, if you'd just be willing to adapt your pistol a little bit, we think we could sell it. And he said, nope, my gun's perfect just the way it is. So DWN went to one of their engineers, a guy named Georg Luger, and they said, hey, take this Borchardt, make it better. And one of the things that he had done, now he actually created this round, and you have to remember, you know, when you have an automatic pistol, there was no automatic ammunition. So one of the first things you had to do was create ammunition that would work. And this is what he came up with. It was now we call it the 30 Luger. It's 765 by 21, which means the brass is 21 millimeters. It's a 765 dimensional bullet. It's necked, and it comes out to a 9 millimeter diameter bullet. Of course, it's no rim, and it was a very, very good round. And this is what the Borchardt used, and he held on to this this caliber of bullet, and that helped him get started. And what he came up with was this particular pistol, or something very similar to it. The first one had a dished toggle, and the initial ones had a leaf spring back here. After the Dutch got a look at it, they asked for a coiled mainspring, and actually they ended up taking them up on that and then adopted it. I haven't taken the grips off of this to see which one it is. I might put a comment down below once I do that. I don't like messing with grips that are on there good and tight, because sometimes they don't come back there tight. Unfortunately, at some point, somebody decided to make this grip their own and kind of sanded this area down, so there's a whammo on that. Now this was one of those guns that had a internal box magazine that was in the grip. That was kind of a little different at the time. It does have a follower, and as you see when you put the bullets in, it's in there at kind of a crazy angle, and it does operate, it does fire fine. It's just a little extreme, but this becomes very, very emblematic and iconic to this particular firearm. What they did with this particular firearm is they realized you have a good gun. These were not cheap. Lots of fine tuning, lots of mechanical hand fitting that went into these. So they found that if they would put an emblem from the country of origin, that people did better. So these were designed specifically to be sold in America. About 30,000 of these were sold in America. This is the 1906. You can see it because it has the gnarled gripping serrations for the toggle, and so it's not the earliest. They ended up, because the Germans wanted a higher power cartridge, they ended up going with a 9 millimeter as well. So Georg Luger had to go in and adapt this. This is dimensionally the same as a 9 millimeter. Actually, this magazine will work with regular 9 millimeter Luger, but by the time that you increase the diameter of the bullet, you actually had to decrease the length of the brass, and so that's why a 9 millimeter Luger is also referred to as a 9 by 19. The bullet's bigger, so you have to drop down the casing to make everything else work. This will chamber into this just fine. So you saw a lot of 30 Lugers, and you will see a lot of 9 millimeters as well. It's a really kind of cool design. Does the magazine, the toggle does lock open on an empty magazine. It's not just on the follower, it'll hold up there. It's kind of cool. If you want to put in a new magazine and drop the toggle, you can just push back on it and it will drop forward, which is pretty cool. This does have a manual safety, but it also has a grip safety. So this prevents the sear from dropping the firing pin. And so when you take it off, if you notice that's still up there, it's because it also has a grip safety. And when I push it on the grip safety, it will go in. And you see it comes back out a little bit. That will prevent that sear from dropping. So this gun will not work unless you have that grip safety on there. The trigger leaves something to be desired, and it's due to the way that the mechanics work on this particular firearm. And I'll show you how you disassemble this firearm. You go ahead and push that in. You drop down this lever, and then this plate will come off. And because this plate engages with the trigger right here, it causes it to be a little gummy. Not my favorite part about this firearm, but then the whole the whole upper comes off. We can go ahead and look in. You can see tons of fine machining. This becomes a very, very expensive firearm to produce. And so that is one of the downsides of this particular firearm. Now you've got this whole unit ready to go. If you go ahead and you flip it over and push in on this toggle, you can actually drop down this pin and it will come right out. It is one way. Then the toggle will want to come right on out. So you pull that toggle up and then pull it right out the back. You can see that all of that fine machining, all that hand fitting, barrels right there, other end right there. It does have rifling, that makes it nice and fun. There's the ejector right there. And then you have this toggle mechanism right here. Now, if I pull back right here, you can see the striker. All you have to do is put in a screwdriver right in there, push in, turn, and the firing pin will come right out. I'm not going to take it out of this one. You can see lots of videos on how to do that. It works just fine. You will notice that these particular firearms, dependent on the year, depending on what its use is for, it will have different amounts of serial numbers marked on it. This was meant for export, so you'll actually hear it referred to as, it's on the barrel on this one, and it's going to be hard for it to pick up. But there's a Crown B, Crown U, and Crown G on a lot of these that are imported or exported out of the country. They're often referred to as Crown Bug guns. That's just primarily something that they did for export. At least that's what I've seen in the literature that I have. Mine is a relatively old one. It's not exactly perfect on how to date it, especially if you're not willing to spend hundreds of dollars on research books. But everything that I've seen says this is right around a 1908. So, I'm looking at 114-year-old gun. This era does not have a firing pin that is serialized to the gun. But if you're going to buy a World War II one, first of all, it'll be in 9mm. Second of all, it will be serialized. Anything that was made during wartime production, pretty much everything on the gun is going to be serialized. Every piece of this toggle will be serialized. The trigger will be serialized. On mine, the trigger is serialized right up there to the gun, but each piece will be serialized. The older, more original ones don't have quite as much serialization to them. To go ahead and put it back together, you put it back in like this, bring your toggle up, get it to go in like that, and then as you get her to go all the way in home, you will kind of need to hold her in place. Get all that lined up. Again, this pin is one way in. Once you get it in, that'll lock her up pretty good. You want to have it down because it's got to go right in that channel right there. So when you put it in, you'll want to kind of do it upside down until she slides on in. Then just pull back a little bit. You can put this plate back on. Put her on in, and she is raced to go. Put her back in there. She'll lock back open on an empty mag. You can go ahead, walk her down. She is ready to go. What I will tell you is, and you will see this from time to time in literature, that 9mm Lugers have a tendency to be a little ammo sensitive. I've noticed that with the 9mm Lugers that I've owned in the past. What I'll tell you, this is the second one I've had in .30 Luger, and every single one of them has run flawlessly. And what I think that is, it's kind of similar to Walther PPs. That when they're in 32, the way they were designed, they run great. You start to go down to 25 or 22 or up to 380, they have a tendency to not run quite as good. Like I said, these have run flawlessly for me. I had the Goat Whisperer out. He shot it a little bit. His son shot it a little bit. The little Goat Whisperer, I've shot it. It's just a lot of fun. You know, little things, it's really hard to pick up on the camera, but you'll see that the small parts like the trigger, like the magazine, the safety were strawed, which means they have that yellow appearance to them. It's just kind of a cool different era. It's a cool firearm to hold. It feels great in the hand. And the fact that this is an American Eagle one, it's got the logo on it, it's got the American Eagle, is just super, super cool to me. So I'm glad I had an opportunity. Unfortunately, I'm not gonna be able to hold on to this gun, but you've got some shooting video. You've seen how it does. If you ever get an opportunity to pick one of these up, please do. You're gonna really enjoy it. I want to thank you so much, guys, for supporting the channel. All the likes, all the comments are really appreciated. Any shares that you can give me are also appreciated. And as always, you stay classy, YouTube. Little middle baby bucket, do you want to live in California?
No!
Why?
Because I'm not a communist.